All right, hi everyone. It is 11:20, so we're going to go ahead and get started with our last breakout for the afternoon or the morning. I see I'm losing track of time. I'm Kelly Dubé. I'm with Tetra Tech. I'm your moderator, and I promise I will keep track of time moving forward. You are in the session on stormwater fees with Rebecca Davis from Lower Allen Township. A couple of things before we get going. Please remember to mute your mic. Please consider turning off your camera if you haven't already, just to save on bandwidth and kind of help things move smoothly. If you have questions for the presenter, you can go ahead and put those into the chat throughout the presentation, and we'll take a look at those toward the end and make sure that we have time to get through them. If you have any technical issues, go ahead and put something in the chat as well, and our helper for this session, who I think is either Adriana or it could be Liz Hyatt from Tetra Tech, will be able to swoop in and lend a hand. Just a reminder that Rebecca is a volunteer, and we really appreciate her time today to share her experience with stormwater fees with everybody. And that, anything Rebecca shares with us isn't necessarily endorsed by EPA or Pennsylvania DEP, but it's her perspective with her experience, and just to keep that in mind and make sure that we show our presenter love with the emojis. You can raise your hand, you can clap, you can just let her know if you agree with something in the chat, which would be wonderful, so that she doesn't feel like she's speaking into the void. And with that, I will turn it over to Rebecca. Thanks for being here with us today, Rebecca.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. My name is, once again, Rebecca Davis. I'm the Stormwater Program Manager at Lower Allen Township. We are a first-class township in Canfield, Pennsylvania, in Cumberland County. So I'm just going to go through kind of the process of how a first-class municipality is required by law to establish a stormwater authority, and how we kind of went about that, and the processes and some of the trials and tribulations that experienced throughout that process. So some of the early discussions we had at our municipality, our Board of Commissioners began discussion in the fall of 2017. They were discussing that during their budget season to prepare for what would be coming forward with budgeting and the formation of a stormwater authority. As I stated, a first-class township by law cannot collect the fee. We had to establish an authority to do that. So the commissioners started that discussion in 2017. Some of the reasons that generated that discussion, some of the main topics that occurred. We have aging infrastructure. Some of our stormwater infrastructure is in excess of 60 years old, and here in our municipality. I often discuss our stormwater infrastructure as a sleeping utility. No one really pays attention to it until it doesn't work. Then it's an issue. So we definitely have some aging infrastructure here in the township. We had capital projects that we wanted to get accomplished. And obviously, as you're aware, we have an MS4 permit. We've had that since 2003. And that permit and our NPDES permit compliance could no longer be subsidized through our general fund. We knew that there was going to be substantial projects coming down the pipeline, and that substantial funding would be required to pay for those projects, and the general fund just wasn't going to be able to do that. Our township pollution reduction plan alone was going to cost us $3.1 million a year to implement over a 5-year period. So, excuse me, $3.1 million in total to implement over a 5-year period. So just the PRP component of our permit alone was going to cost that much money. That doesn't include the other permit requirements and the infrastructure that we wanted to start investigating and potentially repairing and replacing. A little bit about our MS4 program, just some background for you. We have about 110,000 linear feet of storm pipe, 110 stormwater manholes, 89, actually 90 now. We've had to add an outfall, and we have 634 inlets, a little bit over 130 BMPs. Most of them are private. and 60 miles of road. So you can see there's a pretty comprehensive infrastructure system that we are responsible to manage in our municipality. Some of the benefits that the commissioners discussed, establishing a fee, and actually we have a stormwater management program, which is really important to our municipality. Some of the reasons we want to have cleaner streams in our municipality. We have the Yellow Breeches Creek and the Cedar Run. Those are there's also several tributaries of the Cedar Run, unnamed tributaries that go to the Yellow Breeches Creek that ultimately go to the Susquehanna River and the Chesapeake Bay. So we have some impairments in those streams, and we want to have cleaner streams. And establishing this program would allow us to work towards that goal. We want improved recreational opportunities for our residents, especially in flood-prone areas. We want to mitigate that flooding and create additional recreational opportunities for all of our residents in our municipality. Obviously, we have to comply with our federal regulatory mandates. We, like I said, have had a MS4 NPDES permit since 2003, and we want to reduce flooding hazards. And one really important component is to develop community awareness and support. Lower Island Township has a plethora of social media outlets that we discuss, advertise, and promote to our residents. We have Stormwater Authority meetings monthly that we encourage residents to attend. We have a website, and we do mailers in our newsletter and Facebook. So we have a large amount of avenues to discuss and communicate with our residents. And we do that because we want community awareness around our program, and we want input from our residents. That's really important to Lower Island Township. So those are some of the benefits we've experienced with establishing our program, and we continue to experience those benefits. The community awareness and support has helped us to administer our fee with minimal complaints and minimal appeals. So here's some of the rationalization around why we formed our Stormwater Authority. Like I said, for first-class municipalities, not second-class townships or boroughs. I encourage you to talk with your solicitor. I'm not obviously an attorney, but I encourage you to talk with your solicitor to determine what's the best legal route for you when you're looking at establishing an authority. We established a financing stormwater authority only. The township still operates our MS4, and I am still an employee of the township, but our stormwater authority finances our program. So the law required us to establish our authority. That's through the Municipal Authorities Act. The township felt that the authority could implement the fees and pay for the work, and then the general tax revenue could be conserved for other municipal needs. We also felt strongly that to be able to reach all the parcels in our municipality, all the parcels generate stormwater runoff, and the fee is able to reach all those parcels, even tax exempt entities such as schools and churches. Whereas if the commissioners just raised taxes, that wouldn't hit some of the big contributors to stormwater runoff in our municipality. We have several schools, large schools and churches that contribute a lot of stormwater runoff. So the stormwater fee has enabled us to assess the fee on every parcel in the township, even tax exempt entities. And then the authority would allow us, forming the authority would allow us to have long-term planning of our projects. It would be much easier because now we have a guaranteed and dedicated source of revenue for those projects, and it's specific, and it's guaranteed to be spent on stormwater projects only. So some of the timeline that went around kind of forming our authority, it was a pretty involved process. The Board of Commissioners selected a consultant. Their name is Arcadis. They're out of Philadelphia to perform our stormwater fee study, and that happened in February of 2018. I talk about this a little bit later, but I'll just touch on it. Arcadis digitized or traced properties in our municipality to determine the average ERU per parcel. So I talk about that a little bit later in the presentation, but they took a sampling, 30% sampling of residential, and we digitized all commercial properties to determine what our average impervious area per parcel would be in our municipality. We had several outreach meetings for residential and commercial property owners. They occurred in June of 2018. We actually formed an SAC, or a Stormwater Advisory Committee, invited large property owners with several square feet of impervious area to participate in our outreach meetings. That was pivotal to the acceptance of our fee and to get their input when we were going to assess our fee. The Board of Commissioners voted in July of 2018 to have our solicitor begin the process of officially forming our Stormwater Authority and establishing a stormwater fee. Like I said before, I'm reiterating this a lot, but please consult your solicitor to determine what the best process for your municipality is. For Lower Allen, we're first class, and we had to establish our authority to enact our fee. A public hearing was held in August of 2018. We organized our authority under the Municipal Authorities Act, and we had to pass an ordinance to appoint our members. We also had to create articles of incorporation for the formation of our Stormwater Authority, and this was all facilitated through our township solicitor. Arcadis completed the fee study in October of 2018 and provided some recommendations to the Board of Commissioners regarding tiered fees versus flat rate fees. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And the commissioners had a couple options on how they wish to assess the fee. And then LATSA, which is the Lower Allen Township Stormwater Authority, we held the first organizational meeting for that authority in October of 2018 and declared them, like I said, they're a financing authority, not operational. The township operates our system. Lower Allen Township Stormwater Authority finances the projects that we are doing. So we enacted our fee resolution in December of 2018 to enact our stormwater fee. And then we, this process all kind of wrapped up in April of 2019. We mailed the first quarter, we bill quarterly here in Lower Allen Township, and we mailed the first quarterly bills in April of 2019. And we put those stormwater fee bills, we already bill for sewer, sanitary sewer, and we already bill for refuse. So we attach that utility onto that bill, and it's one bill that goes out to our residents quarterly. So I talked about our advisory committee. We had several public meetings. We advertised those public meetings well in advance of our fee establishment. Very important because it allowed the public to participate in those meetings, comment in those meetings, and be a part of the establishment of the fee. It was very, very important to have those meetings and to invite the residential and commercial property owners to those meetings. We also advertised in our quarterly newsletter. We did that 3 quarters before we even enacted our fee. And that generated questions and concerns, and those questions and concerns were addressed at those SAC meetings. We, like I said, we bill quarterly for sewer, sanitary sewer, and refuse. So we were able to put information in those quarterly bills to alert residents of this new upcoming fee so that if they had questions, they could call or email me. We also did bill notifications. And we have a website, which we included articles and information, educational information about our fee. And we also have a Facebook page where we put postings about our upcoming fee. And this was all done three to 4 quarters, almost a year in advance of establishing our fee, so that we could definitely get that input from the public. And that outreach helped with the establishment of our fee and with the acceptance of the fee. Just wanted to share this with you. This is a slide that illustrates what the township commissioners chose for our fee implementation. They chose a full operation and maintenance plan with our fee. They were given a couple different options, and this is the option that they chose. So our fee is budgeted for the next, well, 3 years, 2.5 years of our permit at $1.2 million a year. You can see how those percentages are broken out. And a good chunk of that fee is almost 66% is our MS4 permit compliance. We have operation and maintenance. We are doing television. We are going to be doing potential slip lining and repairing of stormwater infrastructure and inlets and manholes. We obviously do street cleaning, and we have administration and billing program costs for billing the fee with our finance department. And there was some small legacy transaction costs to do the fee study with Arcadis. So this is our 5-year budget, and this is what the commissioners chose to enter into to establish our fee and our program. The commissioners they were given a couple options, and they chose that flat rate fee per ERU. This option was chosen for several reasons. Once again, I went over the fact that Arcadis did that digitization of our parcels. So we have over 6,000 parcels in our municipality. They digitized a sampling of the residential and all commercial lots, because commercial lots we bill based off of their impervious area. So the average ERU of our municipality was determined to be 3,115 square feet. That's 1 ERU. Residential properties are assessed 1 ERU, and commercial properties are assessed a multiplier of that ERU based off of how many square feet they have on their lot. The township commissioners chose this flat rate for several reasons. One, it's definitely easier to administer and equitable for all those properties. It did require minimal cost and effort to implement and oversee compared to that tiered rate billing option. We definitely feel all property owners over 6,000 parcels in our municipality benefit from our stormwater management program and system, and that manages stormwater from our roads and all our properties. So they have the benefit of using our roads, and they benefit from us managing our stormwater. So they should all be assessed that fee. We've only had, I can't remember the exact amount, minimal appeals for incorrect impervious area. I think 4. It's on a later slide. I'll talk about it. What we allowed residents to do and all parcel owners to do is to appeal their fee. We have a credit and appeals policy that we established prior to enacting the fee, which was extremely important. And there are some areas that Arcadis digitized that could, 4 actually, were potentially slightly over that, what we calculated to be those commercial property impervious areas. So we allowed those appeals to occur and granted those appeals if the property owner provided us with a survey to show their impervious area that it differed from what we had on record. Residential properties, the commissioners felt residential properties, they do pay a flat rate for sewer and trash in our municipality, even though the amount of trash or sewer is generated and it varies by each property. So we took the similar approach with our stormwater fee, and it also really facilitated consistency with all of our utilities in Lower Island Townships. That was really an important reason why we chose this flat rate fee. And then, as I discussed earlier, commercial and non-residential, so apartment buildings, property owners pay a fee based upon the number of ERUs of impervious area that exist on their property times the rate of $19 per ERU. So the $19 per ERU was determined. We took over all those parcels, those 6,000 parcels, divided it by our program of cost of $1.2 million per year, and came up with the $19 per ERU to assess each property. I talked about this earlier, but I want to reiterate this policy was established in February of 2019. And as I stated earlier, we did not enact the fee till April of 2019. It was so important to have this policy available for our property owners. For example, we have several property owners that have went to the expense of putting in a best management practice on their property, whether they're residential or commercial. Our ordinance requires that. Act 167 and our MS4 or updates require them to put a best management practice if they're over 1,000 square feet of impervious area after 2003. So, we have over hundreds of BMPs of property owners that already exist. We wanted to offer those property owners the opportunity to get a credit because of installing that best management practice. So we reached out to those people and those owners prior to enacting our fee to let them know that they were eligible for a credit. We offer up to 50% credit for structural BMPs. We do not offer credits for non-structural BMPs. What I mean by that is we do not offer credits For a rain barrel, we do not offer credits for like adopting an inlet or educational components at this time. We do offer structural credits though for best management practices that are installed on property. So we reached out to those property owners, and to date we have issued 64 residential and 28 credits to commercial property owners. And I think that's a little higher. I haven't updated this, and we've had a couple come in this month. And we've had 24 stormwater fee appeals, but only 4 have been granted for incorrect IA or impervious area calculations. We did have a couple, 20 appeals for people that did not want to pay the fee and did not have justifiable reasons for appealing that fee. And those appeals go in front of our stormwater authority. So a little bit about our billing. Like I said, we bill over 6,000 customers quarterly. Our engineering department, we have an in-house township engineer, and myself sat down with our finance team and worked simultaneously to create our billing database. We have a billing software program, and like I said, we merged that with the existing sanitary sewer billing and refuse billing that we were doing. And it took months of collaboration and work, but we were able to create that billing database. And then anybody that applied for a credit, we were able to get those credits into the billing database prior to enacting the fee. So the first set of bills that went out, if someone had a stormwater free credit, they saw that on their bill. We have had less than, and we're in 2 years in here, less than a 1% delinquency rate. So only about 60 delinquent customers out of over 6,000 parcels. So that's been really, really great and very important to, I think, why we did that outreach. I mean, that's pivotal to the acceptance of our fee and having that low delinquency rate. We do all the collections in-house as well. We do not sub that out to a collection agency. So it's a large amount of work, but only about 60 customers of delinquency we've experienced in the past 2 years. So the outreach was, very important to the acceptance of the fee. Complaints were minimal, although I did get them. It was really important to do that outreach to help with the acceptance of our stormwater fee. Am I doing okay on time?
Yeah, you're great.
Okay.
No worries at all.
Okay, so because I want to leave time for questions as well, but a little bit here about what we're doing with the fee. So I talked about our PRP projects. Over the 5 years here in Lower Allen Township, we're already 3 years into our permit. Our PRP, we did not get approval till we were year 1 into our permit. We are doing 10 pollution reduction plan projects, and we are doing basin retrofit projects in our municipality. 4 of the 10 are on land that we own. 6 of the 10 are on private property that we have already negotiated easements, and the township is going to maintain those basins in perpetuity. So once we do the retrofit, we will maintain the basin, and the fee will help to pay to maintain the basin. There's a lot of maintenance associated with these retrofit projects if you're not familiar with them. Here's our public works facility. There's two illustrations here, but what we did here is we dug out and amended soils in the basin and planted thousands of native species of plants in the facility, and put in a stone berm at the outlet structure to help the water pond, and then the native plant species will actually filter out those pollutants and achieve the 10% sediment reduction that we must achieve in the next 3.5 years of our permit. We have constructed 2 so far. We have 2 coming up for 2021 here, and I'm hoping potentially 3. If I get my grant agreement back from PADEP for my Growing Greener grant, we might be able to get a 3rd done this year. And then once they're installed, there's a lot of maintenance with them. There's weed removal, sediment buildup, and so on and so forth. So the fee is helping us to hire a landscape contractor to come around to all the basins and do maintenance on them to maintain their effectiveness for our annual report. And obviously we have to report to PADEP on how we're maintaining these structures. So this is our public works facility site. And this is the other project that we constructed last year. This was at the entrance. You can see in the background, this was at the entrance to a neighborhood. So once again, we had to do a lot of outreach with this project. We had to notify all the property owners in this neighborhood what we were doing. We had public meetings. I met with property owners on the site. And so it was very important to have that outreach and educational component to these PRP projects. You can see all the native plants, and we amended the soils again. You can see all the native plants that were installed. I don't know if you can tell, but we have some coyote decoys in this basin. We had some Canadian geese that were attacking our plug plantings. And like I said, we planted thousands of plantings. So we had to put some decoys up until we got some geese protection fencing installed. We did not foresee this happening, but it was one of the issues that we had right when we got the plants installed. We got that done around the end of September of last year. So this is our Sheepford Crossing retrofit project. So for the future here, I talked about what we're doing. We're doing television. We're spending a significant amount of capital on areas in the township where we've had ponding. We've solicited CoStar quotes for flushing and television, and then the lining of those pipes and inlet replacement and manhole repair and replacement should be going out to bid later this year. And we are also, in addition to what I've listed here, we've gotten CoStar agreements to televise an additional 12,000 linear feet of pipe in our municipality that is aging. We need to see what's going on, and we need to see what we need to do to repair it and replace it. I talked about those basin projects. The township has applied and received almost a little over $550,000 in grant monies through NIFWIF and PADP, Mariner 2 pipeline grants, and Growing Greener grants. So you can see I've listed those projects there. All three, let's see, Public Works and Sheepford were constructed last year. Moreland is starting here in May. The Sheepford East Basin should be starting this fall, and I'm waiting to get my grant agreement back from PADEP to start the Beacon Hill Basin retrofit project. So we're pretty, we've been working really diligently on grant applications, and we've been very successful with those awards, which really allows us to use the money that we were going to spend on those projects to further infrastructure repair and replacement projects. So the projects that we might have pushed down the line, now we can move those up and start working on some of that sleeping utility that we don't know what's going on with in the ground. Some of the future steps for Lower Allen Township, we have those PRP projects to complete. We have appendices on our permit. We have pollution control measures. I'm not sure if anybody else in this discussion has those, but we have pathogens and priority organic compounds, which is really PCBs. We have 2 appendices, and we're looking at, we've done some assessment of where those potential sources of pollution have occurred, and we're looking at doing some water sampling this summer and analysis to determine if we need to install any best management practices to mitigate that pollution, or if the pollution isn't found. So that's coming up this summer. We still have our ordinance revision to do. That's PADEP's model ordinance. We're looking at doing that this winter. I talked about our infrastructure repair and replacement. We also are coordinating that with our paving projects. So we're only going to rip the road up once there, and we're trying to facilitate that so that we have better expenditure of funds, general fund and stormwater fund. And then we have GIS program mapping updates that we're doing. We're consistently and constantly doing mapping updates. And we've created some story maps of our PRP projects. And those are really great because they're great educational tools that we've been using to educate our public on what we're doing with our stormwater management program and our stormwater fee. So those are some of the next steps in our stormwater management program and what we're going to be utilizing our stormwater fee for. And I think that's all I had.
That's so interesting. I love hearing stories about, the outreach component of it in terms of how you get the buy-in. I don't see any questions in the chat. I have some, but if other folks do, please go ahead and type them into the chat now. And I'll ask Rebecca my question while I wait to see what questions you have. One of the questions I had to do with your outreach, and you really emphasized the importance of that. What sort of messaging did you think was most effective? I've worked in really large cities on their drainage charge, and people had this attitude of, why do I have to pay for nature to hit my ground? That was sort of the attitude. I don't know if that's what you ran into, but I'd be curious to know the messaging you use that you found effective.
Yeah, so we got a lot of questions about, why am I paying for rain? And one of the most important forms of messaging that we did is we did a FAQ. It's on our website. I can put it and share it in your files. In this, do you have like a uploading area in Teams that I could upload that to?
Yeah, if you want to just drop it in the chat, I think that works too.
Yeah, I can do that, and I can also drop in the chat our credit and appeals policy. I get a lot of questions about that, but we did a FAQ document when we were looking, when we were doing our outreach meetings with our fee, and the FAQ document talked about why we were assessing this fee. There was 20 different frequently asked questions. So that was really helpful. We had that on Facebook, on our website, but honestly, a lot of residents, this is before COVID, would just come in our municipality and we'd have it laying up on our front counter, and when they were paying their bill, they'd grab it. So, and then it actually generated other questions, which was great, because the educational component of that mailing, or that document, was really helpful with explaining why we were establishing this stormwater fee.
That's great. That's, I think, half the battle right there. If you can get people to understand, you're not paying for the rain, you're paying for the system that, collects and conveys the rain. So my other question for you has to do with, locally owned and managed ERUs. Are you finding that you're like charging the departments for the ERUs for their facilities, and is it incentivizing them to make any changes on their own property to reduce their bills?
Yes. So the credit and appeals program was really important to have in place prior to enacting the fee, and that allowed us to offer those credits to individuals if they had them. But what it's actually done is generated a whole another conversation. My phone's ringing off the hook, because residents are looking to, do an enlargement to their property, add an addition, put in a pool, and now they're saying, well, I might not need to do this BMP, but I'm doing it because I'll get a 50% reduction off my stormwater fee. So it's kind of gone full circle. We started off with people being really upset about the fee, and they've actually accepted it, and now we're looking to see what they can do to help stormwater runoff. And of course, they're going to get a credit off their fee, which that's what the commissioners wanted to offer to these residents who are installing these BMPs and helping reduce stormwater runoff in Lower Iron Township. They're not only helping to reduce runoff, they're helping to reduce pollution. So it's a win-win for our residents. And that's why I stress having that policy in place prior to enacting the fee was really helpful, very helpful.
So do you actually charge though, like the municipally owned like facilities, right? They generate bills for their properties, do they not?
You mean when you say municipal owned facilities?
Like the fire department,
yes.
The school.
Yes, they are assessed a stormwater fee.
And so have they been incentivized to, put BMPs on their property to reduce their bills?
Yes, and some of them have. I'd say about 50% of them have. West Shore School District is a big district in our municipality. Cedar Cliff High School has rain gardens and infiltration trenches on their property. And they actually they were part of that SAC, that Stormwater Advisory Committee. We invited them to attend our meetings ahead of time. So yes, it has incentivized them, several big players in our municipality to do that.
Because I think taxpayers would be looking to see, like, what are the tax funded entities doing to reduce this bill? Because my tax dollar is not only going to pay for, what's happening on my own property, but I'm paying taxes. So, every other governmental entity should be trying to reduce their bills too.
Right. Yep.
So I don't see any other questions in the chat. And if anybody's got anything for Rebecca before we dismiss and go back to the plenary. Otherwise, show her a little love by, the applause emoji. Thanks so much for your time, Rebecca, and all this great information that you shared with us today. We appreciate you being here with us and taking the time to, give us lessons learned and good technical information. And for everyone else, please remember to leave this session and go back to the plenary using the link on your agenda. We have a couple wrap-ups for the day, and we will adjourn momentarily. Thanks again, Rebecca. It was great.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.